Okay.
Welcome back, everybody. This is the Casual GM Podcast. I'm your host, Drew, and alongside me, as always, my co-host, Mike. Mike, how are you?
I'm fantastic, Drew. How are you?
Oh, we're changing it up today. Sounds good.
I think everybody just can look at me and go, that is one handsome guy. Just as handsome as last time. So I'm just going to be fantastic today.
Yeah.
How about yourself? How was your day?
So my day was a bit frustrating. So like I'm happy to work with other people so long as they're available.
Yeah.
And then the minute that I need them and they're not available, I get extremely frustrated. So I'm trying to work on I have like a self-imposed project that I'm trying to change the way that we generate some reports, most of which are redundant or contain, hey Dan, that contain redundant information. And what I was trying to do was consolidate like where all the information comes from into like 3 source documents, and then have that feed into like the 11 other things that I'm responsible for, which would save me anywhere from like 40 to 65% of my workload on a quarterly basis. And so I was looking to have a sit down meeting with our IT professional to see if we could figure out some way to create custom reports in this like business navigation tool that we have on our operating system. And she had to go home because her cat was sick. And
Those IT people are the worst.
I got pretty frustrated. I got pouty and went into my office and shut the door and waited to see Twitter updates on the cuts as they were coming in. So
yeah, just for all the IT people that might be watching, I can say that I am one. We're the worst. We're the worst type of people. No.
Yeah, you're like I've always likened IT people to like kickers in football, because it's like are you really a part of this team? But we absolutely, completely, 100% rely on you.
Yes, you are
when it's time for you guys to do your
scoring
job.
player on the team is the kicker, right?
Yeah, so I thought that was funny. And then I got home, and I don't know what's going on with people driving anymore. But like, here was today. I went to go get lunch, and I'm coming back to my job, and there's we're out between little towns or whatever, so it's like 55, and all of a sudden this car coming at me like just gently drifts into my lane. So I'm like, beep beep, like, let's get out of my lane, like, get back into your lane, get out of my lane, everyone will be thrilled. And then she was like,
what did I do?
What am I doing? So then on my way home, I'm behind somebody and I can see their side view mirror, and they're just like this the whole time.
Yeah, looking down at their phone, looking up, looking down at their phone.
Now when I see this happen now, I get really like pissy about it. So I start honking at them like, beep beep.
Yep.
Beep beep.
Wake up.
Every time I see their head bob.
Hey, that car was also checking their Twitter for updated roster moves. You have to be empathetic to that, Drew.
I'm fine dedicating some time at work, but not when I'm driving my car. So
that's what SiriusXM's for, right?
Yeah, exactly.
NFL channel. So,
oh boy, got a case of the odds. It's no good. So yeah, Mike, kick us off, as you will.
Yeah. So A6 threw something to me earlier today. We had a little bit of a chat about it, and so I'm gonna toss this out to you.
Is this the mystery thing? Is this the mystery thing?
This is the mystery.
You didn't even tell me it came from this dude.
Well, yeah, that's part of the mystery. Where did it come from?
Son of a bitch. All right.
So he said him and his buddy were having a conversation, and A6, correct me if I'm wrong or if I get this wrong, but the question was, or the thought experiment essentially was, what one all-pro position could we add to our team that will make the most amount of wins difference? And my first question was, you mean other than quarterback?
Right.
So my guess is we're on the same page that quarterback is the obvious. If we could get an all-pro to replace what we have, would give us the most amount of net new wins, right?
100%. So like So we talked to Eric Eager from PFF a week or so ago, and we talked a little bit about their WAR metric, wins above replacement, and like that's a stat that effectively says if you add player X or whatever, you are gaining their WAR score as far as wins added to your roster if you're replacing like an average NFL player at that position.
Which
and
is
like
quarterback.
Exactly. And so quarterback's the most important position in football. And so the WAR metrics that I have looked at, it's like the quarterback is in like a tier all by themselves.
Yep.
And then everyone else is over here and you're like nickel and diming this other stuff. So like if you want to if any NFL team at any point ever wants to make a change to try and get as to show as much improvement in the win column as they possibly can on a 1 year to the next year basis, you have to change your quarterback. And you have to go and get an elite quarterback. Now, if you had somebody like, I don't want to pick on him because I'm not entirely sure about this, but like, let's say Marcus Mariota. And then the Falcons somehow go out in the offseason and they bring in Matthew Stafford just for the sake of a name, right?
Yep.
Like their wins above replacement from what Marcus brings to the team to what Matthew brings to the team is going to spike. And like that should show up in box scores and statistics and most importantly in the win column.
Yep.
But like I would also anticipate, not having looked at it or studied it, that like this, if you followed that trend of what position can you add to get the most quote unquote, win points on your team, it would follow the positional value chart.
Yeah. And that's kind of where A6 and I were kind of talking. I said, the obvious answer is it's quarterback. And I don't think you can dispute that other than his clearly drunk friend.
Sure.
Oh, Dan, you got to have a charger with you, buddy. You're in IT, you don't have chargers with you? Man, you're killing me, Smalls.
Your power's out. That sucks, man.
Yeah, that's rough. So obviously the quarterback, I think, is the clear. This is the position. I mean, if you can get a Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, just one of the top, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, Joe Burrow, and Tom Brady. That's like the six that I would call the elite, the best of the best. If you can get one of those, you're just going to be much better than if you replace any one player on, of the other 52 players.
Right.
So then I said, okay, well, assuming we're not going to go the obvious, then if we're not talking quarterback, what position, like what one player would we change out that we think would have the most positive? Until I brought Brady into it. Not a Brady fan, that A6.
He's really good.
So my thought when we were discussing this was, I think you have to go like especially with us, right? Because we've got Hutchinson as an edge rusher.
Yeah.
I think that we could bring in a Jalen Ramsey and really put a lockdown corner in there. Sure. We could bring a Devontae Adams in, but I think we got a pretty solid wide receiver room. So I don't think now, and especially once Jameson comes back, I don't think that's going to be the way to go. And so I said, you know what? And maybe this is also super obvious, but I think for almost every team, Aaron Donald is the right answer. Right?
Well, I mean, if you could take one, you mean if you could take one NFL player off another roster and plunk him down
on your team? Yep.
Oh yeah, 100%. If I'm not allowed to take a quarterback, Aaron Donald is effectively an edge rusher that plays interior defensive line. Like, I don't know. I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. Like, if you went back to the draft, whatever year it was, 2014 maybe, where he was drafted.
Yeah.
I would have to.
Eric Ebron again?
Huh? Right.
When did we take Eric Ebron again? It was that season.
Just stop. And like if you, I mean, but like you would have to, unless there is some kind of like elite quarterback still playing in the NFL, which I don't believe there was one from his class still playing at an elite level, you would have to take Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
You have to take him. Like, he is not just an all-pro. He's not just a Pro Bowler. He's not just a one-time defensive player of the year. He's one of the best defensive players to ever play the game. And like, really, he's only in the consideration to be talked about with like Reggie White and Warren Sapp. I mean, like,
yeah.
And maybe not even Warren Sapp. I mean, like, he's absolutely dominant.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 45. I watched a lot of football. I've never seen someone as disruptive as he has been.
And like, the reason that I think he went like something like 13th or 14th in the draft. Yeah. And like, the reason that he dropped was people were like, he's a little small to be playing defensive tackle, you know, in whatever this 4-3 or whatever.
Yeah.
And then everyone was like, whoops, like, maybe it turns out you can give away an inch. Like, hello, I mean, like, Malcolm Rodriguez is a victim of this as well, right? Like, he fell probably multiple rounds because he wasn't the golden range of what you would want a off-ball linebacker to be in the modern NFL. I'm not saying that he's going to be an all-time great like Luke Kuechly or Brian Urlacher, but like, all I want from him is that he is a decent, maybe slightly above average player. And like, if that's the case and you got him in the 6th round, that is a home run.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you weren't able to pick a specific player like Aaron Donald, and maybe he's cheating. He's kind of a cheat code, right? Maybe
so good.
So if you were going to pick a different, like a position,
yeah,
and not just play, like we'll say, you know, not just say just Aaron Donald or whatever, but if you're going to pick a position for the Lions, what would that position be?
Edge rusher.
You'd pick a second edge rusher?
Not only would I pick a second edge rusher, I'm starting to, like, as I run through mock drafts through different sites, I'm starting to think that that's, if like quarterback doesn't fall into your lap, if you end up getting like the 13th, 14th, 15th pick, I would absolutely take another edge rusher. I go back and forth on how valuable it is, whether it's more valuable to protect your own quarterback or if it's more valuable to disrupt the opposing quarterback. And what I come down to is, as long as Jared Goff is on this team, it's probably more valuable to disrupt an opposing quarterback because it's likely that quarterback is superior to him in some way. Yeah. So like, not that he's like necessarily a better quarterback, but like, so like, let's use Justin Fields as an example. Like, we're going to play Justin Fields twice every year for a while, right? You know, and like, I would say that Jared Goff is a superior quarterback to Justin Fields, but Justin Fields could beat you with his legs, you know, like he brings that to the game. And I want someone who's going to affect Justin Fields more than they're going to help Jared Goff at this point. So like, a lot of mock drafts have like Detroit picking anywhere between like 3 and 5 because it's based on Super Bowl odds or what have you. But like, when I get a chance to draft like a Jalen Carter from Georgia or a Will Anderson from Alabama, I just do it.
Yeah.
You know, and like, if I need to trade back up into the 1st round to get like a Tyler Van Dyke or a Will Levis, that's fine. Otherwise, I'm going to take Bryce Young or CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
And we'll hopefully Miles Murphy or like Andre Carter or like Isaiah Foskey or somebody ends up at the latter end of round 1, and we'll just do it that way. Like, it is not as beneficial to be okay everywhere as it is to be elite at one thing. Right. I would rather be elite at one thing. So you invest your number 2 pick last year. Oh, I agree, Funky. And I think that's a real mistake on Chicago's part, but we can get into that at a different point. But like, you invest the number 2 pick in Aiden, and then it's like, okay, so he has Charles Harris across from him, and there's nothing wrong with Charles Harris, I guess. Like, but I do not view. I view Charles Harris as a player that you can upgrade over.
Mm-hmm.
And while Aiden Hutchinson is probably going to take focus. It's what I think Eric Eager called gravity.
Mm-hmm.
like he's going to suck attention towards himself. Like maybe he draws a running back or a tight end that chips him. Maybe they have a blocking scheme that's designed to make it more difficult for Hutchinson to get there, and that frees things up for Charles Harris to have a better season on the other side. Like he had 7.5 sacks last year, decent number. I want another guy over there that's like, if you leave this guy one-on-one, he's going to burn you.
Yeah.
Or like he's going to burn you consistently enough to be like, I really do not like having to live with the lesser of these two evils.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that, if Charles Harris does that this year, awesome. But like we're paying him $7.5 million this year to do that. And like, that's the cost of like a top 15 draft pick. So I would rather have a top 15 draft pick that I'm paying 7.5 to, who might be better than Charles Harris, who I get for 4 years as opposed to 1 year.
Yeah. So like if we went, so not a quarterback, not Aaron Donald, because he's, possibly the greatest of all time at what he does.
Yeah.
If you could pick one player,
yeah,
would it be TJ Watt? Would it be Jalen Ramsey? I mean, to me, those would be the two non-Aaron Donald, non-quarterback people that I would be like, this would really be an upgrade.
I would pick Jalen Ramsey.
You would pick Ramsey?
If I'm picking like a player to just pluck off a team, plant on the Detroit Lions, like I don't think that we have an elite linebacker at that level. I think Hutchinson could be elite, but we don't have an impact player in the secondary. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that Jeff Okudah is going to have a impact season for the Detroit Lions. We have yet to see it, but like I would want a player that they are like, we're afraid to throw near him.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put him on Justin Jefferson. or like even Adam Thielen and be like, well, Adam Thielen is not playing today. Because they're just afraid to throw near Jalen Ramsey. Like Ahmad Gardner, who the Jets took 4th, in this draft, no one threw near him in the preseason.
Yeah.
Now he will get tested in the regular season, I'm sure. But like he is doing it, right? Yeah. Like if no one is willing to test him in the preseason, it seems like you got a banger,
yeah.
Good job, New York.
Oh, funky. We're gonna kick you out of the chat for that one.
Stop. I don't want to hear any more about Roquan Smith. He doesn't have an agent. You can't trade for him. Conversation over.
Yeah.
And I'm not paying some off-ball linebacker $20 million a year to play in Detroit. Well,
all right. Yeah. So that was cool. What is I'm kind of curious what Funky and A6, those guys, Dan, in the chat, what do they think? Like, who would be if a non-Aaron Donald, non-quarterback? Who would be the person that you would take to pluck off and pop on our team to make the biggest additional wins impact for the Lions?
Right? My number 2 was Justin Jefferson, by the way.
Yeah, I can see. I mean,
I am such a huge Justin Jefferson fan. It's like compromising my objectivity. Like he is so good. He simply is like a ghost. You cannot cover him. It's gorgeous watching him play football. I really like it.
He and Jamar Chase are going to be so much fun to watch.
They played together in college.
Can you imagine?
Oh my God.
How do you lose games like that, right?
Yeah. So if One Pride was here, I think he would probably approve of that my Jalen Ramsey pick. Like I was looking, now that we have cut downs and like we have an idea of like, not an idea, like we know what the roster looks like effectively. Like I'm looking at our cornerback group and I'm just like, I hate this. I don't like almost any of it. So yeah, the depth, the start, all of them. Like I find myself quite frequently in mock drafts, like taking a cornerback in my top 3 picks, so a first or second rounder. And then I find myself like in the 3rd or 4th round wanting to go get another one because it's just so bad, and like I was on a Discord channel, and they said, well, what's everyone's prediction for week 1, Eagles or Lions? And I was like, Eagles, like 31-20. And they were like, why? And I was like, well, largely it's because I think that Jalen Hurts brings a dynamic in his feet that Goff doesn't. So that's an advantage, Philadelphia. And I like their wide receivers against our DBs, and I like their DBs against our wide receivers. So like, it's I think it's probably going to be a tough one.
Yeah. It's as long as it's not as bad of a whooping as we got was it last year, right?
No, it was that was like 41 points or 37 points or
I think it was 41-3.
Something like that. Yeah. Was that the 44-6 game?
That could be. It's
I don't remember what the score. It was a blowout though.
We had half of our losses last year were utter blowouts by 17 points or more. So it was probably one of those.
Yeah. This season, like I hope that they beat the majority of the quote unquote weaker teams on the schedule. And like buy a field goal or buy a touchdown, something like that. Like we were losing last year. They flipped that script and they play the better teams tough. Hurts is bad, but he costs like a 30th of what Jared Goff is. So like I will take 75-80% of Jared Goff at a 30th of the price every time. So he may be bad, but he's so super cheap that they can spread the rest of that $30 million out all over the rest of the roster.
Well, and let's be real. It's not like Jared Goff is good.
Correct.
I mean, people in Philadelphia are going to be like, Jared Goff is bad and he's expensive.
Right.
So,
it reminds me of that stat that stuff that I used to hear like on Combine when the Combine got going. And it's like, well, he may not be quick, but at least he's slow.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. He might not be able to jump, but at least he's strong.
Right.
All right, so the next thing, so our main topic today is final cuts to the 53-man roster. But kind of leading into that, we had a preseason game.
We did.
And it was an utter disaster.
Good news is it was a preseason game, and it doesn't matter.
Yes, that is accurate. What I talked to my dad or my brother or whatever playing, to talk about football and whatnot. I'm like, well, the only thing that matters is A, nobody important gets hurt.
Right.
B, young people get reps.
Right.
And C, we figure out who we're going to cut.
Yep.
It's literally the only things I don't care about wins. I don't care about.
I don't either.
I want people to be healthy, and I want to know who the ones that we actually have to care about are.
Exactly.
That's literally. And what we did learn was our quarterbacks are not the things that we have to care about. I mean, Blau and Boyle were just horrendous.
I don't understand why everyone was so surprised, to be honest. You saw Tim Boyle back up Jared Goff in the regular season when Goff missed a couple games, and, close but no cigar a couple of times. Right. And, I don't think David Blau didn't beat him out for the backup job last year. I mean, like, this was not like how good are Tim Boyle and David Blau was never up for debate. They're not good, So like, to me, this was which one of them are we going to keep, right? So they kept David Blau.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like six of one, half a dozen of the other. I don't care which one they kept. Like to me, they're the same person.
We can always get someone new off the waiver wire.
Right. Like I don't. To me, like if the question is, like people are going back and forth, like you got to cut both, you got to go sign a free agent, you got to pick someone up, off the waiver wire, or like, or what have you. And I'm thinking, like, why?
Yeah.
Like under that scenario, that means that Jared Goff is not playing. If Jared Goff is not playing, tank.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly right. I saw several people like, oh, they need to cut them both. We need to go sign Cam Newton off the waiver wire. We need to trade for Mason Rudolph from the Steelers. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no to all of that unless it's 100% asset neutral. If it doesn't cost us a draft pick and it doesn't cost us a dime, then do it. But if it costs us literally anything, don't do it. It doesn't.
It's a lateral move. Why throw money at it?
Yeah, it does not get us closer to the Super Bowl. It actually takes us further away because it reduces our assets. And so that drives me nuts. So anybody that wants Cam Newton, they can be a Panthers fan or whoever he was trying to stick with.
Yeah. Funky says he thought it was a big surprise that they weren't keeping a sixth wide receiver, and I agree with that.
Yeah.
Like, you're running pretty close to the, flying pretty close to the sun, with 5 wide receivers on the roster, and so, like, I think this is a reaction to the fact that we have so many wide receivers coming into the NFL anymore that you feel like you probably can go get a 6th guy or what have you. And, like, to be honest, they really only have to run with 5 for 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks. We'll see when Jameson comes back. But, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like, we get to week 6, which is the bye week, go into Dallas at week 7, and he's still not out there. I saw that he started running. He was kind of just like, going through the motions a little bit.
The shuttle run went pretty quick.
Yeah, and so, like, to me, with an asset like Jameson Williams, whatever pace he is on, that is the one that he is on.
Yeah.
And, like, the way that I look at it is, last season you were running out Reynolds, Cephas, Raymond, other guys that probably are not on the team anymore.
Sun God.
And you add, Sun God. And you added DJ Chark to that. So even if he doesn't, like, which he will play this season, but, like, up until he plays, you're adding Jameson or DJ Chark to that group, and what your depth looks like of the guys who made the cut.
Yeah.
Cool. Like, just go do that, I would rather him be healthy and play for 3 years, 4 years than push him back at all, and, like, he's just so, he has a trait that you just don't find in the NFL with that speed. So
yeah,
not gonna push
one of the things that I noticed was that, and I think, who was it? A6 mentioned as well. Our defense actually played really well. Our first team defense played really well. Okudah stepped up and played really well. We couldn't do anything on offense. We didn't have either of our starting running backs, so Swift and Williams didn't start. I don't remember if Hawkinson played or not. I don't think he did. But either way, nothing was happening with our offense. But, like, our defense stepped up, and that's where we needed the most improvement anyway, was our defense. So
yeah, this preseason went great. Like, unless, if Jared Goff had not gone to Dan Campbell and said, "Hey, I want to play in the Atlanta game," they were not going to play him in the preseason.
Yeah. I don't think Stafford took a snap in preseason, did he?
I wouldn't have let, he's got tendonitis, like, let him work that out or rest up a little bit, like, there's no reason to push. Yeah. So you get, like what we said, like what you said earlier, like, you get the guys who are fighting for roster spots, more snaps, and we got out of the preseason without any, knock on wood, additional injuries, right? So, like, we've got Jerry Jacobs, Kabinda, Williams, Pascal, and Okwara on the PUP list, and so we didn't add anybody to that. So, top notch. I mean, to have only 5 players injured to the point where they're not going to play, I don't think is that bad. Did I lose you? I lost Mike. Oh no. 1 second, everybody. Maybe I'm the one that. Hey, anyone in chat, can you hear me talking right now? Anybody in chat, throw something up. Oh, are we just dead? Well, this is weird. Stick with us while we fix these technical difficulties. I'm good. You can still hear me? Okay, thank God. Oh, Mike's gone, and now my face is huge, and I have no control whatsoever. Okay. I'm sure that Mike will jump back in here in just a second when I have sent him a text. Oh, he says my machine locked up. Oh, that's a bummer. Okay, so since we don't have Mike for a moment, I'm going to kind of rant a little bit about something that kind of has bothered me slightly about the narrative in the preseason, and that is the idea that if we don't get on some kind of roll right off the bat, or beat teams that the fan base perceives that we should be able to beat, like the Jets or the Giants or the Panthers or the Seahawks or somebody, that we should, and if they don't hit some kind of like magic number of expectation for wins, 7, 8, 9 wins, whatever it is, that we should talk about tearing down the rebuild again, getting rid of Brad Holmes, getting rid of Dan Campbell. And I'm like, that just seems, I don't even understand the thinking, to be honest. Like, if you do that, you burn down the culture. So like, that's the thing that everyone says that they agree on, that they really enjoy about what the Lions are building is the culture, like this lunch pail, bringing it to work mentality. And, people showing up ready to work, giving their all, and then being able to see it out on the field. So I think that you keep that. Worse than Quinn Trisha or Matt Millen. That would be the dumbest thing the Lions have ever done. Yeah, I think so. I agree. And like, you lose all the momentum, and then if you bring in a new front office and coaching staff, they're going to want their players. So the guys that you have on the team, they'll likely stick at least through most of their rookie deals. But then what ends up happening if they say like, oh, well, we don't really want Penei Sewell on the team anymore. Like we want different kinds of tackles. Or we didn't draft Jamison Williams. He's got a hurt knee 2 years ago or whatever it was. Let's get rid of him. Let's do something else. I don't agree with that. So, to me, I would keep be a little patient. We drafted guys that were hurt. James Mitchell was hurt when we drafted him. Jamison Williams was hurt when we drafted him. Pascal had a nagging injury when we drafted him. To me, when we did that, it signaled the fact that like we're all right with those guys not playing immediately. So if that's the case, and we have to take a loss week 3, in order to buy them enough time to get back healthy, that's fine. I mean, that's fine. Like the Detroit Lions are not in a position to, challenge for the Super Bowl. Oh, Mike says he'll be on another couple minutes. He's figuring out his stuff. Don't blow the whole thing up. You hand it over to Deuce and just move on from Dan if the Lions were to go. Yeah, exactly. Like you would want some kind of, wouldn't you want some kind of continuity at that point? Like, wouldn't that be similar to what they did when they let go of Matt Millen and they brought in his assistant GM and Martin Mayhew? Like, wouldn't you want to incorporate like a new philosophy? That's what I would think ownership would want if they were just like, we are now convinced that this is not the way forward. I have a hard time believing from what like I've read and from what I've seen on Hard Knocks and that kind of thing that if you turn this over to say Aaron Glenn or Deuce Staley, that it's really going to be that different from the philosophy that you ended up having Dan Campbell lead. So, there he is.
I'm back, guys.
Oh my God, my back hurts. I'm carrying this podcast.
I know. I was like, I had to pop it on my phone,
Mhm.
and I'm like, "Is it still going, or did I just ruin everything?" And you took it like a boss.
I was like, "What's happening here? I don't understand." Mike is all of a sudden very still. So, but
You
yeah,
just
no,
want
let's
you
get
guys
back
didn't have
on.
to hear the high screeching, whatever it was that happened on my side. So
Yeah, he sure would, Funky. So, all right, Mike, let's get back on track. What should we talk about next?
So I did miss a little bit of what you said. I do want to make a note. Let me see if I can find it because I was going to share my screen.
Mhm.
It was perfect timing, at the time. But because we're talking about the preseason games and what they're there for, what we're trying to
Oh,
do with
right.
it, and we're kind of talking about, like, hey, did Stafford get any snaps? Did how many did Goff get? All that kind of stuff. So you had shared with me earlier, if I can find it, a list of preseason snap counts by salary, which I thought was really interesting. And I'm going to attempt to share my screen this time, and hopefully it doesn't blow up. So no guarantees, but we'll give it a go. Bam. Share.
Riveting podcast drama here. Yep.
Yes.
So this chart is from overthecap.com. If you guys don't use overthecap.com, I recommend it. It is an excellent site for getting just that one step deeper on like contract stuff. And they write a number of really good articles. And I would consider this one about like how free agency works. Like, what does this situation look like? And so they popped this one up today. And I have heard the narrative from Lions fans that's like the preseason is valuable because you can get on a roll and you can create momentum and you can carry that into the regular season. Maybe. Or is that idea something that we need to now reevaluate that we have gone to a 3-game preseason? So overthecap.com took the NFL preseason and they figured out that by salary range, how many snaps are people on NFL rosters receiving in the preseason. Yeah, there you go, Funky. See, Funky's just a good dude. So what we've got here is the overwhelming amount of players who get snaps in the preseason, have contracts that range from either $0, which I can't imagine there's a player in the NFL playing for $0, to $1.035 million.
Yeah.
And that's 3 times the number of the next biggest snap. There's 60 snaps a game, right?
Yeah.
So approximately 87% of snaps on offense were played by players earning less than $2 million per season. And that's perfect.
Yeah, that's exactly what the preseason's about, right? Because who are these people making less than $2 million a season? These are your rookies. These are your walk-ons. These are your second-year guys that didn't get a lot of snaps last year. These are the people you're evaluating, and this is 95% or 87% of what the preseason's all about.
Right.
The other 13% is just not getting hurt.
Yeah. And so like, I mean, we can see this with the Lions, right? So in the Atlanta game, the starters got 1 series. I don't know how many snaps that was, but around, 10 would be, a couple of first downs and a chance at scoring, or like the drive fizzles out or what have you, and you punt. So, and that's fine. You just want to be able to get out there with people in the stands, in a stadium, having traveled, in your pads, go through the reads, the calls, the camaraderie, that kind of stuff. But like, I think what if the NFL is, I remember under the 4-game system, you played starters a good chunk of game 1, almost all of game 4, right? And then the evaluation was the 2 games in between. But now, and I think that this article does a good job of highlighting this, is that NFL teams are solely using the preseason for evaluation, and that's it. So like the idea of ramping up your team to get ready to go into the regular season, I think we can put that one to bed. Like, that is now pretty clearly not what the NFL is doing any longer. So
if you look at this, I know I'm scrolling back and forth, like the $20 million plus range, those are your starters, those are your all pros, those are your pro bowlers. And there were only 32 players in the $20 million and up range out of all 32 teams that even took snaps. And they averaged 4.5 to 10, less than 10 snaps.
The investment is simply too high to risk their injury.
And this is the offense. So I'll scroll down a little bit. This is the defense. And it's no different there other than the salary ranges, right?
Right.
You're still looking at less than 10 snaps for the vast majority of the top people.
Right.
And then I thought it was interesting if we want to look at the Lions. So this is
let's
do. Let's see if I can get. Look at that. Look at Lions at the bottom. So 64%.
Scroll down just another little tick, Mike.
Oh, yep.
Perfect.
So we got the Lions down here. And this is the breakdowns of snaps per player from each category.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot in the 10 million. And actually, they dropped this to 10 million plus, not like 30 million like the previous one is. But 10 million plus, only 25 snaps. That's not much.
No, and that's probably enough, right? Like, that's a big enough sample size for those guys. If like maybe one of those guys shockingly is in a positional battle, Jeff Okudah makes around $10 million.
Yep.
And he had to fight off Will Harris of all people, shockingly.
And then you get that kind of surprise you, like, wow, the Bears, they got quite a few snaps as some of their good players. Why are they doing this? Do they just have nobody else?
That is correct.
And you got the Cardinals. They didn't have a single snap from someone making over $5 million.
Smart.
The Packers, not a single snap from someone making over $5 million.
I hate it, but it's smart.
The Rams, not a single snap from someone making over $2 million. That's crazy.
Well, think about the Rams, right?
They're either really expensive or they're noobs.
They're dirt cheap.
Yep.
Dirt cheap, or you're getting. I mean, it is that gulf. If you were going to jump that on your motorcycle, that is a wide gulf to jump. So
they were the only ones that I saw that did not have anybody in either of these three columns.
Yeah. So what we just wanted to do is to use that to highlight the fact that, this kind of aligned with what we saw from the Lions, this preseason. And that's probably what we should expect from the Lions and most NFL teams, in as long as we have a 3-game off season. If you're going to invest tens of millions of dollars in some of these players, like, to not have them play meaningful games is a real bummer.
Yeah.
So
let's kind of roll that preseason talk into our 53-man roster.
Let's do it.
What were your big surprises?
Well, I'm going to look at it. I'm going to look at my little chart that I made a while ago. So to echo something, let's start with the offense. To echo something that Funky said, 5 wide receivers was a surprise. 4 tight ends was a surprise. 4 running backs was a surprise. And I thought they kept 1 extra offensive lineman more than I would have. So I don't know that any of the skill position guys are too big of surprises. Jared Goff very clearly was going to make the team. Running back, Swift, Williams, Reynolds. And then they kept Jefferson over Igwebuike, which I thought they would keep as training camp developed and the preseason developed. I thought he would probably make the roster for his ability to play on special teams.
And I thought Justin Jackson had it. He played so well the last 2 games.
Yeah, he did. And it was probably he might have been the 54th guy. Who knows?
Yeah.
But here's my thing. Like, I don't feel there is a reason to have Jason Kabinda on this team I've heard all good things about him. He's a good locker room guy, works hard, all of that. He's a fullback. And if you are going to keep someone who plays like this H-back role, they need to be primarily a tight end. Like if you wanted to, like tight ends they kept were Hawkinson, Mitchell, Wright, and Zylstra. Like
Right.
if you need someone to line up on the goal line and just go right ahead, just have Brock Wright do it. Like I get it, but like a fullback is effectively, as far as I am concerned, a defunct position as far as the NFL level is concerned. You want to play one in Pee Wee football, Rocket football, high school, like Wake Forest and some other triple option teams, I'm sure, are using fullbacks. You don't need it at this level. And I think that
we need to go wing T.
Yeah, I mean, like, what are we doing, right? I mean, like, unless you're going to bring something like that back, then I think that this is a position that you could utilize to free up a roster spot. Let's see. Was there anybody cut who I thought should not have been cut? I thought Benson had a chance to make the roster. Other than that, I'm not really shocked by the cuts. There were some guys they brought in on the roster that I didn't have on my list here, but like a Justin Jackson.
But
to me,
he was the only guy that I was really disappointed in us. I mean, I thought Tom Kennedy might have been able to stick around as a sixth wide receiver while Williams was on the non-NFI list, non-football injury list.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, I would take him over Cephas. I've never been a big Cephas fan, so I'm a little disappointed that we've got him instead of Kennedy, because Kennedy was pretty solid, very dependable. Just a little bump there. And that fourth tight end, I would much rather have had Justin Jackson.
Sure, I can see that. I'm not going to argue about the fourth tight end versus the fifth running back or something like that. I mean, like, to me, these are guys that if they'd cut either one of them, I've been like, oh, all right, so
yeah.
Our specialists, they kept Siebert. He beat out Patterson. I got that wrong. That was a coin flip for me. Jack Fox is the punter. Scott Daly is the long snapper. That's all good. All those guys are up on their contracts after the season, BT Dubs. So let's make sure we re-sign some of those guys.
Yeah.
And then let's see. We've got start on the line. Of course, we've got Hutchinson and Wuzurike, McNeil, and Aquara, who is on the PUP list. And then we have Pascal, who's on the PUP list. They kept Isaiah Buggs, Michael Brockers, and John Kaminsky. Austin Bryant, Demetrius Taylor, good for him. Julian Aquara, which was a little bit of a surprise to me, and Charles Harris. So that's a pretty versatile group. Like, I think that's the thing that jumps out to me when I look at it, is like, you could make the case for most of those guys being able to play inside and outside.
Yep.
I know against the Steelers, they lined Hutch up over the guards and he kind of ate their lunch. So that's a good thing to see. Like some kind of like NASCAR package or some heavy package could be in there at some point. So yeah, Alexander got cut. Yeah, he was the other candidate that I thought could be a wide receiver / special teamer.
That's probably why they kept the fourth tight end, essentially, was that sixth wide receiver.
Yeah.
If you're not going to keep him, then it doesn't really matter. You may just take the cheapest one.
Right. There was I was surprised they cut Anthony Pittman on the defense. He plays across 4 different special teams groups. So that's a real, you got to replace a bunch of positions now that he's off the team. On special teams, they kept Anzalone, clearly Rodriguez, Chris Board, and Derek Barnes. As linebackers, Josh Woods also there. He's a core special teamer. And then in the secondary, Amani Araraway was the CB1. Okuda beat out Will Harris. Thank Christ for that. But Will Harris still made the team, which is just horrible. Chase Lucas made the team as a 7th rounder. Good for you. Jerry Jacobs was on the PUP list. AJ Parker was kind of a surprise cut for me, but they kept Bobby Price. And they kept Mike Hughes, which we didn't hear much about in the preseason, but I thought was a good keep. Tracy Walker, starting safety, Deshaun Elliott, starting safety, Melifonwu and Joseph are the backups. And for some reason, Juju Hughes. So to me, that was a bit of a surprise. He must be important on special teams. So
I don't even remember seeing him play much.
that's just it. I mean, like, there's a bunch of people on this roster that I just don't know have distinguished themselves positively or negatively. They're just kind of guys.
Yeah.
Um,
They fill a spot. We need another safety, I guess. So we might as well take him.
Right. So as I look at the roster, I like the offensive line. They clearly wanted another backup offensive lineman. So Tommy Kramer, this feels like Tommy Kramer and Logan Stenberg's. Like, are we going to solidify ourselves as backup interior offensive linemen? Evan Brown is very clearly a competent backup at all three of those spots. Matt Nelson, hopefully the offensive line is healthy.
Do you think a guy like Logan Stenberg, we would keep him around as potential trade bait?
No, who's going to trade for a backup guard? Like, I mean, we saw a flurry of trades today take place in the NFL, and a lot of them look something like player in a 7th round pick for the opposing team's 6th round pick in the upcoming draft. So, like, I can't imagine somebody trading a 6th round pick for Matt Nelson, or Kramer or Stenberg, to be honest. I would say one of the Hugheses are out when Jacobs comes back. So that's the interesting question, is like, which 4 or 5 guys have made the roster because we have people on like the NFI or PUP list. So I think that's going to be really interesting. So, like,
I think that's why Kabinda, right?
I think that Campbell really thinks there's value in that position because he's old school in that way. Like, I get the feeling that he likes Kabinda, thinks Kabinda is valuable, wants Kabinda in there. And, like, the dude, I mean, I'll look up how many snaps he played last year, but it's like nothing, and, like, I just don't understand how you can keep a dude like him on the team. What?
Isn't he on the PUP list right now?
He is.
Okay. Can you cut someone that's on the PUP list?
Yes, you can cut anybody.
You can? Okay.
He played 141 snaps last year.
Hey, that's 10 a game, just under, about 8 a game.
Is that worth a roster spot? I mean, I don't think so. Like, he's probably a super nice dude.
Yeah.
Good tone setter, locker room guy, who knows? But, like, I would rather have another cornerback, or something.
Yeah. Someone that's got more speed, can get around the outside.
Or just, like, where are the Lions weak? Like, let's shore that up, like, because it's not fullback.
Yeah.
Like,
is that just a deflection? It's 4th and 1 and they're bringing their fullback in. Is that just a distraction to a little quick out, fake it to the fullback to get that 1 yard, and they're just going to dump it to a tight end or something like that? I
imagine. Like, to me, he's a 4th and 1, and we're not screwing around about it kind of a player. Like, you need to line up in the eye. Jason Kabinda is the guy I want in the eye, but, like, if you were like, I'm going to run any kind of deception, then I want a player, and maybe Kabinda can do this. I don't know. 10 snaps a game is not enough to convince me that, like, you could flex out, and it's like, oh, we have 1 running back in the backfield now, and you have to account for, we'll see who took the, the guy that we flexed out in coverage, then we're going to run it where that guy left, that's, to me, if you're going to run the ball, like, it's the 5 guys up front, and then, like, everything else is like a percentage point here and there, but they're the overwhelming majority of it. So I don't know. I just think
might as well just go with a double tight end set.
Yeah.
Right?
essentially, yeah.
Deal with it.
Like, why draft James Mitchell? Like, like, to me, Cabinda's kind of taking some things that he could have done. He could have been on the field for, like, you can only put 11 players out there on offense every play, so I don't know. Like, I think he's probably a really great guy. I keep covering my ass when I'm saying that, but at the same time, I'm just like, based on the position you play, like, I just don't know that we need you anymore.
Yeah. So I know we're getting close to time. What were your thoughts on Hard Knocks? On that episode 3?
I thought the funniest part was when Michael Brockers during the credit was like, when those wide receivers retire and they can't run anymore, they're going to get fat.
That was pretty funny. I like that.
I mean, I don't know that I'm getting much out of it after the first episode. Like, to me, it's like, after if I'm reading a book and I end up reading the same page 2 or 3 times, I kind of get that feeling from it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of like, hey, we got to work hard. Let's have a big speech about and then motivate ourselves, that kind of stuff. And like, I think that Hard Knocks has really picked their favorites on who they want to like promote. I haven't seen Ben Johnson once. Like, we haven't seen Jeff Okuda once. Like, they're not giving me a complete picture of the team. They're picking narratives and they're pushing those narratives. And like, most of the time that's fine. Like, I like Dan Campbell fine, but like, I get a little bit, it's enough of the rah, let's go, work hard, 3 fingers, 1 ass. I mean, that stuff means nothing to me. I mean, like, I think people like it because it's
entertaining.
It's entertaining and it's simple, and that's fine.
It's entertaining, not informative.
Exactly. And I'm like, and I'm dying to learn more about what this team really looks like. And, and like, I didn't think that I would like Hutch getting up there and singing Billie Jean. I liked it more than I thought I did.
Yeah.
And like, I've really liked the stuff about Rodrigo, so far. Like, but I like it because it helps justify taking him in the draft at all.
Yeah.
Not because it's like, some rag to riches Oklahoma State to the NFL pipeline, or what have you. Like, I like it because it's like, cool, we're going to get better at this position.
Yeah.
Here's why.
Yeah,
but like,
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
I enjoy the people stories as well. Like, I was really hoping Obinna Easy was going to make it because I really enjoyed his story. I was really hoping he would be he'd be good enough to make the team and kind of continue on the story that he's got for his life and career so far. Didn't make it, right? He got cut. That's a bummer. But like, I've enjoyed some of those stories and kind of getting to know the people side. They're people like me and you. They just have a much bigger wallet, right? And a lot
more athleticism.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, I wish it was more. Like, there were more episodes. I wish there was more episodes. Would probably give you more opportunity to get into others. Like, we haven't seen DJ Chark.
Right.
Like, I want to see that guy run. Like, he's supposed to be fast. Let's see it behind the scenes. See it, right?
To me, like, I get, as far as like them playing football, like, I can go on Twitter and just by the accounts that I follow, I can get like Cephas making a cool one-handed catch in practice, or I could get like Goff to Chark, on some diving end zone, catch or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what Funky says, like, he says, like, I'm enjoying it, but they really can't get into the stuff I want to actually see. And like, that's what I feel too.
Funky, what is it that you want to see that they can't show you, or they're not showing you?
Question.
I mean, is it like for me as a leader of a couple different teams, I would like to know how they handle one-on-one, like that kind of coaching. Like, all right, when somebody calls in, I mean, we saw a little bit when they were chewing Swift out a little bit, and talking Rodriguez up and stuff like that. So there's a little bit of that, but that was still team. That was the wide receiver, the running back room, that was the linebacker room. I want to know, like, when a guy gets cut, when a guy gets almost cut, like, hey man, just Drew, between me and you need to get your shit together, or you're just not going to make it. Yeah, like I want to know how some of those conversations go.
Yeah,
Or
me too.
there's like two players having a spat. Like how do they solve that? Like those are the kind of things I'm super curious about.
So, like, one of the biggest turnoffs about football for me in general is the yelling at people. I don't like it. So, it's one of the big reasons why I didn't want to play in high school. Like when I had basketball, so I played basketball in high school and like would go to summer camps and play with friends, pick up games and stuff like that. But when someone yelled at me, I never wanted to be like, I'm going to show you, I'm going to be better. I
Right.
always was like, I'm embarrassed and I don't want to be here anymore. Like,
Yeah.
so when I see Deuce Staley get after DeAndre Swift, I literally, like, my guts crawl.
Yeah.
Like when they were calling, like when Kelvin Shepard was praising Rodrigo and then letting everyone else just take it in the face, like in the linebacker room, I was like, can I skip over this? This is terrible. Like,
Yeah.
I really didn't like that. And like, but if a coach came to me and was like, I need you to be able to plant your foot here, make this cut, pivot, and then shoot, and took the time to educate me, I played hard for that guy.
Yeah.
That was the guy that I'd go to bat for, but like so much of football seems to be the, like, I don't want to call it toxic, but like there's a lot of ritual, there's a lot of yelling, like, and I don't respond well to that. So and this Hard Knock season seems to be a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want to get up in front of people and sing, especially without the song playing along with me. Like, I mean, I don't know if you guys can hear me right now. This is my singing voice. So
that's true. I've been in the car with him singing.
Yeah.
Usually Disney tunes.
Oh, Disney's so good.
Yeah. So watching Deuce kind of chew out the running backs after he lost his voice, I don't know how they didn't just go and just like laugh in his face, because he was so angry and like so passionate, and he had such a high squeaky voice. Like I'm just there cracking up on the couch. I'm like, I don't know how they can stand there with this big badass man, like ripping him a new one, all his passion and energy, and just coming out like just Mickey Mouse.
Funky says he wants to see Aaron Glenn and AP Aubrey Pleasant talking scheme and play design. That would be cool.
Yeah.
And like I get the feeling that if I sat down with any NFL player or coach, that Disney made my favorite superhero movie and no one ever guesses. Is it Blade? No, that was DC.
Emperor's New Groove. It's got to be.
Huh?
Emperor's New Groove.
Well, that is a guess right there. That is a guess.
He's not a superhero.
Is he?
No, he's not.
Who were some? Is it Bolt, the dog?
Oh, could be Bolt.
If it's Bolt, I win Tuesdays. I get forever.
Yeah.
So he'll tell us, I'm sure.
He better. Don't think it's saying Funky.
Emperor's New Groove was, I think, an underrated film.
Very. I want to see the live action of it.
Sky High. Wow. You're right. Yeah. I think very few people would have ever considered it, let alone guessed it. Wow. Favorite superhero movie?
Right on.
I respect it, dude. Like I'm out there for like the outliers and like the stuff that people don't think about anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't expect that one. That was it knocked me sideways. So like the thing that now that we have the roster, now that the preseason's over and we're going into game 1, there's a couple things that I want to see this year, because I think that it's going to start to speak to what the front office is going to do in the long term. And that's what are we going to do with TJ Hawkinson? What are you going to do with Jeff Okuda? So after this season or during the season, are you going to start contract discussions with TJ Hawkinson? At what point are you going to talk yourself into whether or not you're going to pick up Jeff Okuda's 5th-year option? Like, that decision happens, at some point in this year. Hey, oh, don't worry, Rumble. I saw you over on Luke G's podcast. You're up there with all the faces. I know, so it's all right. We appreciate you.
Yep.
We talked yesterday, so everything's cool. But yeah, I wish Luke would stop running this podcast literally right before we do ours.
Well,
So
telling Luke or Drew, we need to get Luke on this podcast. Therefore, he can't do it at the same time, right?
that would still be at the same time, Mike. There's a flaw in your logic there. But like, you and I had this conversation about top 10 contract value.
Mm-hmm.
And like, there's only so many $10 million plus players that you can have on your team.
20.8 of them.
Well, I mean, not as a maximum, like as a,
Just saying.
like as a realistic inclusion on the roster. There's like, 7 guys, 8 guys maybe that you can have around the $10 to $20 million range. And like, you've in the last couple of years,
you got 2 of those guys or 3 of those guys.
Yeah. Like, is Jared Goff worth 2 different $15 million a year players? I am highly suspect that is the case.
Right.
So, but it's entirely possible. I just don't want to spend money poorly.
Yeah.
So,
about asset management, right?
Fingers crossed. I mean, I don't want to talk. I mean, like, I very much look at these NFL players like they're assets or chess pieces, like that kind of thing. Because like, I believe in like what Billy Beane said, like during Moneyball, like you can't develop personal relationships with these guys. Like, the only player on the Lions that I really, hey Crimson, how you doing, buddy?
Hey Crimson.
The only player
sub, by the way, Crimson sub the other day.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, at some point I saw it in the little list though. So
that's so cool. That's appreciated. The only player on the Detroit Lions that I have like an unobjective view about is Aiden Hutchinson, and that's because he went to Michigan.
Yep.
And like, I have a couple of just diehard people from Michigan that I just will root for regardless. Jabril Peppers is one of them. Like, I loved watching Jabril Peppers play football at Michigan, and he hasn't had the NFL career that I wished that he would have had.
Yeah.
Oh, we appreciate that, Crimson. Thank you, man. But like Hutchinson, like, I'm so Hutchinson terrifies me. He absolutely terrifies me, because I want so badly for him to be like the face of the franchise, the savior of the defense, to live up to all the expectations immediately. And that is so difficult to do that I know it's wrong to like hang emotionally on that outcome.
Yeah.
But the fucking guy has not done anything wrong yet, and it's driving me crazy, and like, he's going to go up against some really good offensive linemen this, first week in Philadelphia. And I just get bummed that like the people who were like, we need to draft Kyle Hamilton, we need to draft Malik Willis at number 2 overall, are going to be like, look at this waste of a pick. And I'm going to be like, we are literally 1 game into like a 85 game rookie contract.
But he didn't even have a sack in the 1 game, Drew.
Didn't play in that game.
Well, those are the things that's going to happen, right? You're going to be like, well, he didn't even get a sack. I'm like, well, yeah, but he got pressures, or he knocked the ball down, or whatever, right?
You and I had a phone conversation recently, and I said like, one thing that I'm going to be really curious about that doesn't show up in the stat column is how many holding calls he draws this year.
Yeah.
You know, like there was, I don't remember. I remember there was some statistic I was watching a football game years ago, and they said like, you know, some percentage of drives where a holding penalty is enforced, like they fail at like a 60% rate. Like if you basically get a holding call enforced against you on the offense,
Yeah.
it's just a killer to that drive. You know, it's a lot of distance to make up, you know, and
it's an extra first down.
It is. You're right.
And you're losing, you're losing down. You're typically losing yards because a lot of times those holding calls are maybe a good run play or a good pass play, and that just comes back, and you go back further, and it's just momentum killer. Momentum's real.
It is, yeah.
I'm not sure how real it is from game to game, but definitely within a game, there's a lot of momentum's a real thing.
ASIC and I might need to get into those big sumo suits or maybe with like the big boxing gloves or some shit, because
Hutch isn't going to draw many holding calls. His point is he plays for the Lions, and we get completely overlooked in a lot of that kind of stuff.
Until now.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So like the kind of narrative that you and I are trying to dispel with this podcast is what I would consider to be the kind of thing I heard my entire childhood watching football. Like just I call it like announcer speak in my head. Like it's like, well, it's 3rd and 4 here. You're probably going to want to, A, B, or C. And then like, I didn't understand anything else. And so like when someone was like, say, what are you supposed to do on 3rd and 4? I would just parrot back what the announcers on the broadcast would say without really saying like, is that the best thing that they could do, or whatever, and like so many like I was listening to the Roar of the Lions UK do their prediction show the other day, and they do some good stuff over there. I really like their podcast. And one of the guest panelists said something to the effect of, well, they can get their running game going, everything should work out, like time of possession, keep the other guys on the field, wear them down. And I'm like, that is wrong now. I mean, like,
it helps, right? I mean,
does it? I mean, like,
if you can keep running, like, and they can't stop you, and you chew up that time of possession, it has to help.
I mean, so like, here's my thing, right? So like, if you were to get, let's say that we have this like 20 play drive, it's mostly running, you eat up a huge chunk of the clock, and maybe you kick a field goal, and then you have like a 1 minute 30-second drive that you were throwing the ball down the field and you score a touchdown. Like, what is the value of those 4 points in time? I don't know that we'll ever know that.
Yeah.
But like the teams in the NFL are so good, even some of the bad ones, that like I think that I would rather score quickly and maybe have to do it more often than say I'm going to be good enough to continually do X time after time after time.
Yeah.
And limit my, you're not just limiting your opponent's ability to score points. You're also losing, your own ability. Like, time is a resource for both teams.
Yeah.
And like, because you have the ball, of course you're affecting your opponent more than you are affecting yourself, but you are also losing that time. And I wonder how much value there is in that, And so like, here's what I know for sure though, is that whether I think it's good or bad, the people in the NFL are throwing the ball a lot more.
Yep.
And if the wide receiver market's taught us anything, there's people out there that are like, we really need these guys. And there's other people out there that are like, maybe we don't need these guys, and like, what does that mean for the NFL? And I'm just thinking like, if you can't, you might be able to run better than a lot of teams in the NFL, but if you can't throw with the good ones, you're probably not winning playoff games. You're probably not able to go deep in the playoffs. Like,
it's more about running to set up the pass.
Yeah. I mean, like, when I was a kid, it was run, run, pass, right? That was like if you're on first down, run, run, pass. Michigan did it forever, run, run, pass. And now I would
That's what the
say,
Lions did. Run, pass, run, third and long, pass, maybe extend it. Run, third and long.
right.
Punt.
And like that's a recipe for like stalling out, you know?
Yeah.
And like I would, you know, the average pass play in the NFL gets you about a net of 7 yards, you know, and like the average run play in the NFL last year got you like a net of like 3.3 or 3.4 yards. You know, and if you do the math, like you're like, well, I should be able to run the ball 3 times in a row at those averages and continually get first downs, right? If the difference is going to be a tenth of a yard.
Yeah.
But you know,
or
like
you
even
pass it twice.
right. Even if one of those passes is incomplete, you're netting more yards over the long term.
Yep.
Why shouldn't you do it? I mean, like I don't want to be the same old Lion
as well. But I think one of the things that the Lions struggled really hard at is closing a game out with the run game. Closing a game out in general, but the run game is typically used to do that because, well, if you got no yards, the clock's still running off 35 seconds. If you throw an incompletion, the clock runs off the 4 seconds it took to play. So having a run game that can close out a game, I think is still really important. And that is something very clearly the Lions couldn't do through pretty much all of Stafford's career and ever since Barry Sanders left, right? So we went 70 straight games without a 100-yard rusher.
See, to me, that doesn't mean anything.
What's that?
To me, that means nothing.
Well, I mean, one of the things it does is it shows you that you don't have a quality run game where you can't in 5 seasons, you haven't had a single game where you could have just had one guy get over that mark. That means you're not running well to close out games, right? You're not, when you get the lead, you want to run the clock down, and you're not doing that. And so to me, I think it's important, not as much about anything other than that just shows you can't close out games. And when you look at us leading the NFL and giving up fourth quarter leads, that explains a lot. That's why we lost so many games at the end, and we had to come back so often, is because we couldn't close the game out with a running game. We ended up giving up a lead in the fourth quarter, and then we had to throw to catch back up and win it. And we need to not do that. And I think our offensive line and the running backs we have right now are good enough where we can hopefully change some of that. If we do happen to get in the lead, that we can run or the quick outs or whatever that are the high percentage passes, like we can do that enough to run that clock out.
So to me, I don't care. I don't give a shit about 100-yard rusher. That is an arbitrary number that to me means nothing. So like, here's what I care about. Like, I would rather have DeAndre Swift catch a pass and run with the ball than take a handoff and run with the ball.
Sure. I mean, so, that's fine also.
So, and like, what I care about is having an offense that can effectively get a first down and puts themselves in a position to have easier probabilities to convert and get first downs, so that an opposing defense has to burn their timeouts. Otherwise, you're just going to keep moving down the field and the clock's going to run regardless, right? Like, it might stop. It won't run like it is if you were running for all those plays, but if you're just going to continually execute and continue to get first downs and more downs, then you're going to be able to burn timeouts as if you were running the ball.
Yeah.
And then once their timeouts are gone, fine, fucking run it. Because that you no longer care about executing to get a first down. You're caring about simply draining the only resource that matters to your opponent, which is the fact that A, they have no time and you have possession of the football.
Right.
So like, I do not equate the ability to do those things with having either a 100-yard rusher, what I would rephrase from what you said to be an effective running game.
Right.
Like, I don't care if they rush for 100 yards if it's like 3rd and 3 in the second quarter and they call a running play and they get 4 yards. Like, to me, that is effective running.
Right.
Like, you are using the running game to do something that propels winning. Right. So, like, if you had, let's just pick a number, 12 rushes of like 5 yards apiece, and none of them went for touchdowns, but they all did something like put you into 3rd and manageable, converted to a first down, or like allowed you to run play action effectively for the rest of the game. All of that is fine. And you don't have to rush for 100 yards to do any of that stuff.
True.
So,
like, to your point, like, it doesn't matter if you hand the ball off or dump it off, throw it and catch it and run. I think the reason why closing the game out via the run game is still a thing is because there's typically more bad that can happen when you're throwing the ball than when you hand it to somebody. You're more likely to get an interception than you are to hand off and get a fumble.
I would also say that, but it's also more likely that you get a touchdown.
Yeah, but if you're closing out the game, if you're just trying to run the last 2 minutes of the clock out, you're ahead. Winning more doesn't matter. Winning is the only thing that matters. So running that clock out is literally the only thing you care about.
To me, it makes
money on the game, right?
To me, the value there is that if you are in a position where you are running to close out the game, you are predictable. And like, I think that teams will gain advantage on you by being able to predict what you are trying to do.
Yeah.
So to me, like, if you get them to play 8 in the box and you can get a matchup 1-on-1, say Shark, outside or whatever, and you throw an incomplete pass, they have to account for that. And like, I would put, I know that you would be ripped apart in the press, and it ultimately would come down as to whether or not you won the game or not. But like, I would continue to try and do that and to try and like force them to do something where you can like get them in a defensive setup that is advantageous to you. And then the quarterback, which I think Goff can do this probably easily, is like decide whether or not they're going to pass or run the ball at the line.
Yeah.
And so, but if you are one dimensional, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And so like, to me, with the NFL being a matchup league and passing becoming ever more prolific, that's what I wanted to say. When people talk about the necessity of the run game as a key element of winning at the NFL level, I automatically go to myself, no. And then I think to myself, why? For this particular set of reasons. But like, and there are teams, don't get me wrong, that are dedicated to running the ball. Philadelphia, Cleveland, Tennessee, Baltimore, San Francisco, like those are teams. But like San Francisco this year is going to fundamentally change how they run the ball, because not only do they have the same concepts for running the ball that they had last year under Jimmy Garoppolo, but now you have a extremely mobile, athletic quarterback as well. And, that's like taking a defensive player off the field, because now you have a matchup where the quarterback is typically not a threat to run.
Yeah.
If it was something like that, Mike, if it was something like the Detroit Lions had Will Levis or Josh Allen or Trey Lance or Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts or any quarterback that is a threat to do damage with his legs, even Daniel Jones is a threat to get a first down with his legs. He's a big dude, runs pretty well. He's not a statue back there.
Right.
If we had a quarterback that could do that, I would be more open to being like, okay, we're just going to run him out on a boot or whatever.
Yeah. RPO.
Right? Yeah, an RPO, exactly. Something like that. Or like, we trust you to like, the whole reason that like, oh shit, I cannot remember what it's called. Chat, help me out. It's when the quarterback pretends to hand the ball off to the running back and sticks it in his gut, and he's reading one defensive player and what that guy's doing.
RPO, run pass option.
Well, no, but it's not because the pass. Well, I mean, you can
Yeah.
What is that called? That was huge in college, and you saw it all the time. Oregon did it.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank too.
Mm.
Kind of. I mean, it's essentially an RPO, right?
Yeah.
You're choosing to either hand it off or run with it yourself.
Right. Like if the defensive, like say you're reading the defensive end, if he dives after the running back, the quarterback keeps it and he takes off, and you have the man advantage. Or if the guy stays home, you give it to the running back hits the hole. It's an option. It's a something option.
Run pass option.
No, it's not that. QB option, maybe that's
quarterback option. I don't know.
We will end the stream and I'll be like, oh, it's this. God damn it. I'll figure it out. But like zone read option. Nailed it. So
I love you, man. That's all. You crack me up.
So so like you had someone that could do read option or an RPO. Thank you, chat. You guys are fantastic and helpful. Okay, that's one thing, or if Jared Goff was an immobile but just like big dude like Roethlisberger, and he can just push, the line, but like he's not that guy. Like he is everything except those things, right? So like, I mean, Matthew Stafford never got any love for his mobility because he was pass first and wanted to pass and could pass really well, but like that dude could get out of harm's way. Like he was mobile enough for me. Like I don't care.
Yeah, he picked up so many first downs, and
I love that shit when he would run.
Ruck some linebackers that he just shouldered down, and everybody's like, "Don't do that! You're $30 million."
Yeah, I always loved this shit when he was running out of bounds and he'd reach with his left hand just like 1 yard extra.
Yep.
And then he would cross the outside line. I always thought that was like super petty. I loved it.
Hey, you know what? A yard's a yard. $20.
It is. Right? I was like, oh, it's so fucking smart. Like he's getting yards back every time he gets sacked, So, so like something like that. But like that's just not who Jared Goff is. And like to me, if you want to compete in the NFL, you need a quarterback that can help that running game in a very practical, meaningful, straightforward way. And like to me, the running game has evolved. And like what you are describing is like the predecessor of the current NFL run game. And like I don't want to do that because I want to be out on the front, like where like the innovation is happening to gain the edge, because it's the Detroit fucking Lions, right? So like it's time to do that in order to get some of these wins that like escape us by a last second field goal or the holding call that goes against you and now there's no chance or whatever the shit is, like that's what I want. Also, you know what? It's I don't know, but like I don't want to beat teams by 3. I don't want to beat teams by 3. I don't want to beat teams by 7. I want to beat teams so badly that they feel bad that they had to ride the bus to come to the stadium. Like, I want teams to be truly questioning their worth at their profession having showed up to play us. Like, I want them to cry about it. It's not enough to just go out there and beat some team by 4 to 6 points. It's like my favorite games are blowouts. I don't care. I don't want a last second field goal. I want to know in the second quarter that this bitch is sewn up and like we can go home and enjoy that beer or the chips and cheese or whatever we're going to do. And I can come back 30 minutes later and be like, oh, we're up even greater. This shit is fantastic. I feel great about rooting for this squad.
Drew, I think if Appalachian State would teach you anything,
that is a low blow.
Count those chickens.
Yeah. So that was low.
Sorry, that was a low blow.
I know. That's fine.
I had a buddy that was at that game and left early and got out to his car, turned the radio on to find out that they lost.
My dad, when I was a kid, took me to Washington. Came for because we used to play the Pac-12. Or Pac-10 back then, but like we used to play the Pac-12 in non-conference games, and Washington came, and like Washington was no bitch team or anything like that. Like you had to pay attention to Washington, and we were down we were down, and it looked like most of the time it was like if the numbers play out, like you're going to lose this game. And so like getting out of the University of Michigan and back on the highway is just an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
It can take hours. And so my dad was like, do you want to go and get a jump on it? And I was like, yeah, we probably should. And then like we no more than get out of the stadium and we hear 125,000 people go, ah! And like, so then we run to the car, literally my dad and I'm trying to keep up with my adult father as I'm like 11 years old. And like, we get in the car and turn, cause you used to be able to listen to games on the radio back in the day. And that was always fun too.
Back in my
like,
day.
Yeah. We used to go on Boy Scout camping trips. And we'd bring along like a radio and we'd be able to listen to Michigan games on the camping trips. Those are always fun. And, Michigan got a turnover and like picked it up and scored. Now they're within one possession and like held them to a 3-and-out, got the ball back, went down the field and kicked a field goal to win the game by like 2 or some shit. So like, you should stay to the end, right? Because you never know what's going to happen.
I have never left a game early.
So that's admirable, but like being a Lions fan as long as I have, like you could get a lot of time back that way. Time is a valuable resource.
I paid full price for the ticket. I'm going to be there for the whole game, get the whole experience.
Mm-hmm.
Never know. Maybe you can get an autograph if you see a player.
You love autographs. You're an autograph seeker.
I have a few.
Yeah.
I have a few. I've got I need to get Stevie Y. That one up there with Stevie Y holding the cup. I need to get him to sign that. But I got Zetterberg and Konstantinov autographing those and a whole bunch of others.
Yeah. That was good. I had some fun watching Red Wings games back in college when they were just at the top of their power. That was always fun.
To be a Red Wings.
I like rooting for good teams. I don't know. Is it just me? I'm sick of this like bottom dweller, top 10 draft pick shit. Like I want to be picking in the 30s. Let's do this. Like
the Red Wings didn't pick in the top 20 for something like 23 years.
Whew.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Well, we're way over. We try to typically.
We're way over for you. I could talk for another 2 hours. So
we try to keep it to an hour. We're an hour and a half. Once all of Luke G's cronies came over, we couldn't just go up and quit, though, could we?
Which we super appreciated, guys. If you couldn't hear that in his voice, so
yes, I say cronies in the most loving and way,
loving way possible.
Yes.
So.
If I didn't mean it in that way, we would have just up into like, oh, they're here. Then peace. Yeah. We're an hour and 7 minutes out.
When I saw that he was running this podcast, I was like, fuck. Is this happening again? Like, oh, I saw this hilarious fact. This will be the thing that we end on. Okay. So the Lions game against the Steelers drew more ratings this last weekend than all 5 NBA games during Christmas during the 2021 season.
Combined?
So I'm not certain. I would imagine it's like tuned in for a particular game and no individual game outdrew what the NFL preseason did.
It was something like 89 of the 100 most watched telecasts last year were all NFL games.
I mean, when people say you can't compete with the NFL, it's literal. It's not an exaggeration.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, buddy, I think we're going to call it a go or a show for tonight.
Mm-hmm.
We got Hard Knocks in 1 hour and 56 minutes and some number of seconds.
Okay.
So for everybody that stuck around and watched and interacted, this was awesome. Appreciate it. Questions, comments, email casualgmpodcast@gmail.com. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. We're getting closer to a hat, Drew. I think we're
50 subscribers, and we will have choices, and then the chat can select which hat I get. So. And then I will wear that on our podcasts because it really matters to a lot of people out there.
We'll have a hat selection episode where we get to start we'll just do a survey, and whatever gets the most votes wins.
Yeah, so I mean, if that's something that you guys want to see, like, help us get. We're at 32, I believe, currently. So we're only a mere 18 people away. Like, I've told my family, like I told my mom and dad, I was like, you need to subscribe to my channel. And they're like, how do you do that? And I'm like, you're just clicking buttons. And they're like, oh, I can't even get to YouTube on my phone. And I was like, fuck me sideways. This is terrible. Like, so it's really bad. So, and Crimson, I appreciate you coming over, because I have always felt, after I've listened to Luke or anybody that shares the opinion, oh, Rumble, that's so cool, man. We appreciate that. That when I hear about us needing safeties and linebackers, I just kind of throw up in my mouth a little bit. Like, I'm just so sick of it. So, you know, and it's just like, oh, we need to sign Roquan. You know, like, I can't do it anymore, you know? So, like, I understand your need to, like, kind of decompress, you know, after like a long day at work. You just want to be able to, like, go home and relax and, like, let your cares wash away. That's what we're here for.
Right on.
That's what our podcast is all about, only from a spiritual football point of view.
Yeah.
So,
analytical and spiritual.
Yeah. Show me where the difference is, and I'll change my tune, right? Like, as far as I'm concerned, that is the spirit of getting better at the game of football. So,
congrats!
You did?
I'm assuming.
What'd she say? I'm hoping she said yes. If you're telling us about it,
yeah, it better be a yes.
Better be a yes.
Otherwise,
are you gonna fucking tell us or what?
Oh yeah.
What? Oh yeah, what? That doesn't.
Oh yeah, I gotta tell you guys. I got. What was the answer? I mean, it's got to be a yes. Like, you don't go, hey, guess what? I propose.
I will. If totally, this is a no, you're just not going to be welcome on the channel. Oh yeah!
Right on. Congrats, man.
That's cool. That's so cool, dude. Great. That's fantastic. That is so cool. I don't know. I can't confirm or deny, but I might watch proposal videos on YouTube and TikTok. So it's not that I really enjoy them or anything. I think that's so cool. Awesome, dude. That's so great.
Awesome. All right. Well, congrats, Crimson.
What a great way to end the show, huh?
Tuesday. We can talk about it's really, we got a week in between, right? We have a week off before week 1. So
Mike, I think we have to start a tradition next week.
Yeah.
And that is the pre-start of the season mock draft.
Pre-start of the season mock draft. We can do that. We'll make that. And then we kind of went through and chose like our picks for the week. Or for the season, what our initial guess was.
Yeah.
But you actually came up with an idea about each week making a wager on DraftKings or whatever, and we'll figure that out next week, like what the plan is. We talked about maybe throwing a little bit of money into DraftKings based on kind of the stuff that we're talking about and where we think it's going to go.
My whole reason to do that is I want to prove to the people that are here, spending their valuable time to listen to us and watch us. Well, I mean, for you, it's great, but for me, I'm just gross. Yeah. But like, I'm willing to put money, my own money. I would take Will Levis with the first pick. On the outcome of what I say. So like, I have said repeatedly, I think 6 wins plus would be a very good season for the Lions. I would be happy with 6+ wins. As a minimum, and I'm willing to bet on the outcomes of the games with my money to demonstrate my commitment or certainty or not bullshitting you, about what, me backing up what I say. So like, if you guys want to watch me do that, that's fine. And if not, that's cool. I won't do it, so on the channel, I will do it anyways behind the channel. So that's fun.
So yeah, let's do it. Let's get to Hard Knocks, and then we'll catch up next Tuesday, man.
Sounds great, man. Excellent. Thanks, guys. Crimson made my day. So happy for you.
Yeah, congrats.
One pride. I cannot stand MSU. Stop talking. Go do your own thing.
Go Green.
Stop following Michigan around like a little brother. It's disgusting.
Go Green.
So yeah, okay. All right.
See you guys.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.